The ship came down from the sky on a cold morning in October. It was the year 2247, and humanity had been traveling among the stars for almost 50 years. They had built colonies on Mars and mining stations in the asteroid belt. They had touched the moons of Jupiter and sent probes to distant stars. But they had never met anyone else out there. They had started to wonder if they were alone in the universe. They were not alone. The alien ship was massive. It was black and shaped like a curved blade, and it blocked out the sun as it descended over the city of Geneva. People stopped in the streets and looked up. Children pointed. Old men dropped their coffee cups. The whole world held its breath. Admiral Hannah was eating breakfast when she got the call. She was a woman of 53 years, with gray streaks in her black hair and a face that had seen too many battles. She had commanded Earth's defense fleet for 7 years, and she had always known this day would come. She just did not expect it to come so soon. "How big is it?" she asked into her phone. 2 kilometers long, said the voice on the other end. "It's landing near the UN headquarters." Hannah put down her rice bowl and stood up. "I'm on my way." By the time she arrived, the ship had already touched down. A crowd of soldiers and diplomats had gathered around it, keeping their distance. Secretary General Wu Daesung was there, standing calmly with his hands behind his back. He was a thin man with kind eyes and a soft voice. People often made the mistake of thinking he was weak. "He was not, Admiral," he said as Hannah approached. "Thank you for coming so quickly. What do we know?" she asked. "Nothing yet. They have not come out." As if hearing his words, a door opened in the side of the great black ship. Light spilled out, bright and golden. A ramp extended down to the ground. The alien that walked down the ramp was not what anyone expected. It was tall, almost 3 meters high, with a body like an insect. It had 4 arms and 2 legs, and its head was covered with large compound eyes that reflected the morning light. Its mouth was made of clicking mandibles that moved constantly, even when it was not speaking. Behind it came 2 more aliens of the same kind. And behind them came others of different shapes. Some were small and covered in fur. Some were tall and thin like walking sticks. Some had no legs at all and floated in the air. It was like watching a parade of nightmares and dreams mixed together. The lead alien stopped in front of Secretary General.
"Ooh."
A small device on its chest glowed blue, and when it spoke, the words came out in perfect English. "I am Ambassador Vorin of the Galactic Hegemony," it said. Its voice was deep and cold. "I come with a message for the species known as humanity." Wu bowed his head slightly. "I am Wu Daesung, Secretary General of the United Nations. I speak for Earth. We welcome you." Vorin's mandibles clicked. It might have been a laugh. "Your welcome is noted, but I am not here for friendship." It reached into a bag carried by one of its companions and pulled out a flat metal tablet. Strange symbols glowed on its surface. Vorin held it out to Wu. "This is the tribute order," Vorin said. "Every species that joins the hegemony must sign it. You will find the terms acceptable." Wu took the tablet. The symbols shifted and changed, becoming English words. He read them slowly, his face showing nothing. Admiral Hannah moved closer and read over his shoulder. Her blood went cold. The document demanded that Earth surrender 40% of all its resources to the hegemony. It demanded that 30% of Earth's military ships be handed over. It demanded that humanity accept the hegemony's rule in all matters of expansion and colonization. In return, humanity would receive protection from unnamed threats and a seat in something called the Galactic Assembly. But this seat would have no voting power. Humanity would be allowed to watch, but never to speak. It was not an offer of friendship. It was a demand for slavery. "You have 7 of your days to consider," Vorin said. "This is more than most species receive. We are being generous because you are new to the stars." Admiral Hannah stepped forward. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. "And if we refuse?" Vorin turned its many eyes toward her. For a long moment, it said nothing. Then its mandibles clicked again, faster this time. "No species has ever refused," it said. "In 10,000 years, every civilization we have met has signed the tribute order, Some signed quickly. Some signed slowly. But all of them signed. That does not answer my question, Hannah said. Voren leaned closer to her. She could smell something strange on its breath, like burning metal. The ones who took too long to decide, it said quietly, no longer exist. The alien straightened up and looked at Wu again. 7 days, Secretary General. Use them wisely. We will return for your answer. Without another word, Voren turned and walked back up the ramp. The other aliens followed. The door closed behind them. A few minutes later, the great black ship rose into the sky and disappeared among the clouds. The crowd stood in silence. No one knew what to say. Finally, Admiral Hannah turned to Secretary General Wu. What do we do? Wu was still holding the metal tablet. He looked down at it, then up at the sky where the ship had vanished. We have 7 days, he said softly. 7 days to decide the fate of our entire species. He turned and began walking toward the UN building. Hannah followed him. You're not actually thinking of signing that thing, are you? She asked. Wu did not answer right away. They walked through the doors and into the great hall, where so many decisions had been made over the centuries. He stopped and looked up at the flags of every nation on Earth, hanging from the ceiling like colorful ghosts. I am thinking, he said finally, that we need to learn everything we can about these aliens. Their strength, their weaknesses, their history, and then. Wu turned to look at her. For the first time, she saw something in his eyes that she had never seen before. It was not fear. It was not anger. It was something older and deeper than both. And then, he said, we will show them what humanity is made of. The next 7 days would change everything. Neither of them knew it yet, but the word that would shake the galaxy was already forming in their hearts. That word was small. It was simple. It was only 2 letters long, but it would be enough. The news spread across Earth like fire through dry grass. Within 6 hours of the alien ship's departure, every person on the planet knew about the tribute order. Television stations played the footage over and over. The alien ambassador's words were translated into every language. People gathered in the streets, in their homes, in churches and temples and mosques, all asking the same question. What would humanity do? The answer, it seemed, depended on who you asked in the capital cities of the world. Politicians argued and shouted and pointed fingers. Some said humanity should sign the order immediately. Better to live as servants than to die as heroes, they said. Others said humanity should fight, no matter the cost. Better to die standing than to live on our knees, they said. And some said nothing at all, too afraid to speak. In Seoul, Colonel Jeon Suho sat in a dark room surrounded by computer screens. He was a man of 40 years, with short hair and tired eyes. He had spent his entire adult life preparing for wars that never came. Now the biggest war in human history might be just days away, and he needed to know if humanity had any chance at all. Show me the numbers, he said to his team. The numbers were not good. Earth's fleet consisted of 43 combat-capable ships. Most of them were old mining vessels that had been modified with weapons. They were slow, poorly armored, and their guns were designed to break apart asteroids. Not to fight alien warships, the hegemony's fleet. Based on the information they had gathered from the ambassador's ship, numbered in the thousands, their weapons used energy technology that Earth had not even dreamed of. Their shields could stop nuclear missiles. Their engines could cross the galaxy in weeks. If they attack with even 100 ships, Jeon said slowly, we lose. If they attack with 10 ships, said one of his officers, we lose. Jeon closed his eyes. He had known the truth before he asked the question, but hearing it spoken out loud made it real. Then we cannot fight them directly, he said. We need to find another way. On the other side of the city, Dr. Narayuna was looking for that other way. She was a young woman, only 32 years old. But she was already the most respected language expert on Earth. She had spent the last 5 days studying every piece of information the hegemony had shared with humanity, their language, their history, their culture. What she found surprised her. They have never fought a real war, she said to Admiral Hannah during a late-night meeting. Not in 10,000 years. Hannah frowned. That's impossible. How do you conquer a galaxy without fighting? Through fear, Nari said. She pulled up a chart on her tablet. Look at this. Every species they have encountered has surrendered before any battle took place. The hegemony shows up with their big ships and their tribute order, and everyone just gives up because they know they cannot win. Yes. But also because they believe they cannot win. Nari leaned forward, her eyes bright with excitement. Don't you see? The hegemony's power is based on reputation, on the idea that resistance is impossible, but they have never actually had to prove it. Hannah thought about this for a long moment. You're saying their army might be weaker than it looks? Right. I'm saying we don't know how strong their army really is, and neither do they. The days pass quickly. 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. The arguments continued, but slowly a consensus began to form. Not among the politicians, who were still too busy fighting each other to make any decision. The consensus formed among the ordinary people of Earth. Messages appeared on the internet. Signs appeared in windows. The same words were spoken in 1,000 different languages, in 1,000,000 different places. We will not kneel. On the 6th day, Secretary General Wu called a secret meeting. It was held in an underground bunker beneath the old border between North and South Korea, a place that had once been a symbol of division, but was now a symbol of unity. Admiral Hannah was there. Colonel Jian was there. Dr. Nari was there. And a dozen other leaders from around the world. Wu stood at the head of the long table. The metal tablet with the tribute order sat in front of him, its symbols glowing softly in the dim light. Tomorrow, the aliens return for our answer, he said. I have listened to every argument. I have studied every report. I have heard the voices of our people. He paused. Now I want to hear from each of you. What should humanity do? One by one they spoke. A general from America said they should sign. We cannot win this fight. We must survive first, then find a way to resist from within. A minister from India disagreed. If we sign, there will be no resistance. We will be slaves forever. Our children will forget what freedom means. Scientists from Germany suggested a middle path. Perhaps we can negotiate. Give them some of what they want, but not everything. They will not negotiate. The tribute order has been the same for 10,000 years. They do not change it because they have never needed to. The debate went on for hours. Voices rose and fell. Tempers flared and cooled. But as midnight approached, Wu raised his hand for silence. I have heard enough, he said. Admiral Hannah, you have not spoken yet. What do you think we should do? Hannah stood up slowly. She looked around the table at all the faces watching her. These were the leaders of humanity. Scientists, soldiers, diplomats, dreamers. They were afraid. She could see it in their eyes. She was afraid too. But fear was not the same as surrender. My grandfather fought in a war when he was young, she said quietly. He told me once that the moment you decide you have already lost, you have already lost. The battle is not decided by who has the bigger army. It is decided by who refuses to give up. She turned to face Wu directly. We may lose this fight. We probably will lose this fight. But if we sign that order without even trying, we will lose something much more important. We will lose ourselves. We will lose everything that makes us human. Her voice grew stronger. So my answer is no. No to the tribute order. No to slavery. No to kneeling before anyone, no matter how powerful they think they are. Silence filled the room. Then Colonel Guion stood up. I agree with the Admiral, no. Dr. Nari stood up. No. One by one, the others rose from their seats. One by one, they spoke the same word. No. No. Finally, only Wu remained seated. He looked at the faces around him, at the people who had just voted to risk the destruction of their entire species, rather than surrender their freedom. He smiled. And that is our answer, he said. He picked up the metal tablet and looked at it one last time. Tomorrow, we will tell them. He set the tablet down on the table, unsigned. Outside the bunker, the sun was beginning to rise. It was the dawn of the 7th day, the dawn of a new age. Humanity had made its choice. Now they would see what the universe did with it. The alien ship returned exactly when it said it would, 7 days to the hour. It descended through the clouds over Geneva like a falling shadow, and the whole world stopped to watch. This time, there were cameras everywhere. Every television station, every streaming service, every social media platform was focused on the same place. 8 billion people held their breath. 8 billion hearts beat as one. Everyone knew that whatever happened in the next few minutes would change human history forever. Ambassador. Vorin walked down the ramp with the same cold confidence he had shown 7 days before. His compound eyes swept across the crowd of humans waiting for him. He saw soldiers in their uniforms. He saw diplomats in their suits. He saw cameras pointing at him from every direction, and he saw Secretary General Wu De-sung standing at the bottom of the ramp with a calm smile on his face. Ambassador Wu said, "Welcome back to Earth." Vorin's mandibles clicked impatiently. "I am not here for pleasantries, Secretary General. I am here for your answer. Has humanity agreed to sign the tribute order?" "We have considered your offer very carefully," Wu said. "Please, come inside. We have prepared a formal response." This was unusual. In 10,000 years of delivering tribute orders, Vorin had never been invited inside a building for the answer. Usually, the leaders of new species came to him, trembling and bowing, ready to sign whatever he put in front of them. But Vorin was curious. These humans were strange creatures. Perhaps they wanted to make their surrender into some kind of ceremony. He followed Wu into the United Nations building. The General Assembly Hall was full. Every seat was taken. Representatives from every nation on Earth sat in their places, watching silently as the alien ambassador walked down the center aisle. The flags of the world hung from the ceiling, cuting slightly in the recycled air. Admiral Hannah stood near the podium at the front of the room. Colonel Guion stood beside her, along with Dr. Nari and a dozen other military officers. Their faces were hard and serious. Vorin noticed that none of them were bowing. None of them looked afraid. This was also unusual. Secretary General Wu walked up to the podium. On it sat the metal tablet containing the tribute order exactly where he had left it 7 days ago. It was still unsigned. "Ambassador Vorin," Wu said, his voice carrying clearly through the silent hall. "Before I give you our answer, I want to thank you." Vorin tilted his head. "Thank me?" "Yes. For the past 7 days, your tribute order has done something that nothing else has ever done. It has united humanity." Wu gestured at the assembled representatives. "We are a species that has spent most of its history fighting each other. We have different languages, different cultures, different beliefs. We have gone to war over land, over resources, over ideas. We have never agreed on anything." He paused. "Until now." Vorin shifted uncomfortably. Something was wrong. This did not sound like the beginning of a surrender. "You asked us to give up our freedom," Wu continued. "You asked us to hand over our resources, our ships, our future. You asked us to become servants of your hegemony, to kneel before masters we did not choose." He shook his head slowly. "You do not know us, Ambassador. You do not know what we are capable of. You do not know what we have survived to get here." His voice grew stronger. "We have crawled out of caves and built cities. We have crossed oceans and climbed mountains. We have split atoms and touched the stars. We have survived ice ages, plagues, famines, and wars. We have made terrible mistakes, and we have learned from them. We have fallen 1,000 times, and we have gotten up 1,001. The hall was completely silent. Every eye was on Wu. Every ear was listening. "You have conquered 1,000 species with your tribute order," Wu said. "You have built an empire on fear? You believe that every species will kneel when faced with your power." He picked up the metal tablet and held it up for everyone to see. "But you made one mistake. You came to Earth, and Earth does not kneel." He looked directly at Vorin. "Our answer is one word, Ambassador. One word that every human on this planet speaks with the same voice." He set the tablet down on the podium. No, the word echoed through the hall like thunder. Vorin did not move. His mandibles stopped clicking. His compound eyes went wide and still. For a long, terrible moment, He looked like a machine that had suddenly stopped working. "I do not understand," he said finally. His voice sounded strange, almost broken. "You refuse?" "We refuse," Wu confirmed. "But no species has ever refused. In 10,000 years, every civilization has signed the tribute order. Every single one." Admiral Hannah stepped forward. Her eyes were like fire. "Then I guess we're the first." Bourne stumbled backward. His forearms waved in the air, a gesture that might have been panic or confusion or both. "This is not possible. This cannot be happening. Do you understand what you are doing? Do you understand the consequences?" "We understand perfectly," Hannah said. "You're going to threaten us. You're going to tell us that your fleet will come and destroy our planet? You're going to say that we have no chance, that resistance is hopeless, that we should accept our fate." She took another step toward him. "We've heard it all before, Ambassador. We've been telling each other the same things for thousands of years. And you know what? We never listen." She smiled, and there was no warmth in it. "So go ahead. Send your fleet. Bring your weapons. Do your worst." She leaned closer to him. "We'll be waiting." Bourne backed away until he hit the wall. His whole body was shaking. In all his years as an ambassador, he had never experienced anything like this. He had seen species beg for mercy. He had seen them weep with despair. He had seen them sign the tribute order with trembling hands. He had never seen a species say no. He had never seen a species that was not afraid. "The Council will hear of this," he whispered. "They will send the fleet. Your world will burn." "Maybe," Wu said calmly, "but we will not burn alone. And we will not burn in silence. The whole galaxy will see what happens when free people stand against tyranny. And they will remember." Vorin turned and fled. He ran through the hall, past the watching representatives, past the cameras that broadcast his humiliation to the entire world. He ran up the ramp of his ship and slammed the door behind him. Minutes later, the ship rose into the sky and vanished among the stars. In the General Assembly Hall, no one spoke for a long moment. Then slowly, someone began to clap. Another person joined in. Then another. Then another. The sound grew and grew until it filled the entire building, till it shook the walls and rattled the windows. Outside in the streets of Geneva, people were cheering. Across the world, people were cheering. In Tokyo, in New York, in Lagos, in Moscow, in small villages, in great cities, humanity celebrated they had done the impossible. They had said no, but Admiral Hannah did not celebrate. She stood at the window looking up at the sky where the alien ship had disappeared. She knew what was coming. She knew the real battle had not yet begun. "How long do we have?" Wu asked, coming to stand beside her. "I don't know," she said. "Weeks, maybe months. Probably not years. Then we should get to work." Hannah nodded. She turned away from the window and looked at the people around her. These were her fellow humans. Scientists and soldiers, leaders and dreamers. They had just made the bravest decision in the history of their species. Now they had to find a way to survive it. "Yes," she said. "Let's get to work." The real war was about to begin. At the center of the galaxy, there was a station. It was old beyond imagination, built by species that had turned to dust long before humans learned to walk upright. It hung in the darkness between stars like a silver spider in an endless web. This was the Citadel, home of the Galactic Council, the seat of power for the hegemony that ruled 100,000 worlds. Ambassador Vorin stood before the council, trembling. His compound eyes kept looking at the floor. He could not bring himself to meet the gaze of the beings who sat above him. "Say it again," said High Counselor Mira. Mira was not like the other counselors. She was not flesh and blood. Her body was made of living crystal, thousands of years old, glowing with a soft blue light that pulsed like a heartbeat. She was the oldest being in the room and the most powerful. "They said no," Vorin repeated. His voice was barely a whisper. The chamber fell silent. 12 species held seats on the council, and representatives from all 12 were present. They came in many shapes and sizes. Some were tall and thin. Some were short and round. Some had too many eyes. Some had no eyes at all, but all of them shared the same expression. They were confused. "Oh, that is not possible," said Counselor Brecht. He was a reptilian creature, covered in green scales, with a mouth full of sharp teeth. His species had joined the hegemony 3,000 years ago. After a brief resistance that had cost them half their population, he had been a warrior once before he learned to submit. No species refuses. It is not done. And yet they did it, Vorin said miserably. I delivered the tribute order exactly as I have delivered it 1,000 times before. I gave them 7 days. I explained the consequences, and when I returned for their answer, they said no. Asked another counselor. One word, and then their military commander told me I was welcome to try destroying them. The chamber erupted into noise. Counselors shouted over each other in a dozen different languages. Some were angry. Some were afraid. Some were simply unable to understand what they were hearing. Mira raised one crystalline hand, and the noise stopped instantly. Tell me about these humans, she said. Her voice was like wind chimes in a storm. What kind of species are they? Vorin hesitated. They are young. They have only been traveling among the stars for 50% of their years. Their technology is primitive compared to ours. Their military fleet is small and weak, and yet they said no. Yes, Myra's body pulsed with brighter light. She was thinking, in 10,000 years, she said slowly. We have never encountered a species that refused the tribute order. We have built our entire civilization on the assumption that all intelligent beings will choose survival over freedom. We have never had to prove our strength because no one has ever tested it. She looked around at the other counselors. These humans have tested it. They have called our bluff. And now the entire galaxy is watching to see what we will do. On Earth, humanity was watching too, but they were not waiting. Admiral Hannah had transformed the planet into a fortress. Mining ships in the asteroid belt were being converted into warships, fitted with nuclear missiles and laser cannons that had never been designed for war. Underground factories worked day and night to produce weapons, armor, and supplies. Young people lined up at military stations, eager to serve. Colonel Guillen led the tactical planning. He knew they could not win a straight fight, so he did not plan for one. We will use the asteroids, he explained to his team, pointing at a holographic map of the solar system. The hegemony has never fought among so much debris. Their ships are built for open space, for clean lines of attack. We will make the battlefield messy. He moved his finger across the map. Here, here, and here. We plant nuclear charges on the largest rocks. When their fleet arrives, we guide them into the field. Then we turn the asteroids into weapons. It will not be enough to defeat them, one of his officers said. Guillen agreed. But it will slow them down. It will cost them ships. It will make them bleed. He looked around the room. And maybe, if we hurt them badly enough, they will decide we are not worth the trouble. Dr. Nari had a different weapon. She sat in a small room filled with communication equipment, broadcasting messages in 17 different alien languages. The messages were simple, but powerful. Humanity has refused the tribute order. We stand alone against the hegemony. But we do not have to be alone forever. We call upon all species who have dreamed of freedom, all worlds that have suffered under tyranny, all beings who remember what it was like to be free. The time has come to choose. Stand with us, and we will fight together. Or stand aside and watch the galaxy change. The messages spread across the stars. They reached planets that had been conquered 10,000 years ago. They reached species that had forgotten they were once free. They reached ships and stations and colonies in every corner of the hegemony's territory. And somewhere, in the darkness between worlds, someone listened. Back at the Citadel, High Counselor Mira made her decision. We will send the fleet, she announced. 200 warships. I will lead them myself, the other counselors murmured in surprise. Mira had not left the Citadel in over 1,000 years. Is that necessary? Brecht asked. Surely a smaller force would be enough to crush these primitives. Mira turned her glowing eyes toward him. You do not understand. This is not about crushing humans. This is about sending a message to every species in the galaxy. We must show them what happens when someone defies us. We must make an example so terrible that no one will ever dare say no again. She rose from her seat, her crystal body singing with power. Prepare the fleet. We leave immediately. On Earth, Secretary General Wu stood before the world one more time. His face was tired, but his voice was strong. They are coming, he said. We have received word that the hegemony fleet has departed. 200 ships, led by their highest commander. They expect to find us afraid. They expect to find us ready to surrender. He paused. They will find us standing. They will find us fighting. They will find us unbowed and unbroken. He looked into the camera and threw it into the eyes of every human being alive. I will not promise you victory. I cannot promise you survival. But I can promise you this. Whatever happens, we will face it together. We will face it as humans have always faced the impossible. With courage, with determination, with the stubborn refusal to accept defeat. His voice dropped to a whisper. They called us primitives. They called us weak. They thought we would kneel. He smiled. Let's show them how wrong they were. Across the planet, people watched and listened. Parents held their children close. Lovers held each other's hands. Strangers looked at strangers and saw not enemies. But brothers and sisters, for the first time in its history, humanity was truly united. Far away. In a forgotten corner of the galaxy, a small ship changed course. It was carrying supplies and weapons to the human resistance. Its crew was made up of beings from a dozen different species, all of them former servants of the hegemony. On its hull, someone had painted a simple message in Earth's most common language. It said, "We heard you. We're coming." The humans were not alone anymore. The final battle was about to begin. The hegemony fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system on a cold morning in February. 200 warships, each one larger than any vessel humanity had ever built. They moved through space like a cloud of black metal, blocking out the distant stars. High Counselor Mira stood on the bridge of her flagship. Looking at the small blue planet that had dared to defy her, it seemed so fragile, so vulnerable. A single shot from her main cannon could crack its surface. A few hours of bombardment could turn it into a dead rock. "Scan the system," she ordered. "Find their fleet." Her officers worked their controls. Moments later, they had an answer. "Their ships are in the asteroid belt, Counselor." 43 vessels. Myra's crystal body flickered with something that might have been amusement. 43 against 200. They are brave. I will give them that. But bravery without wisdom is just stupidity. She gave the order. All ships advance. Destroy their fleet. Leave nothing alive. The hegemony fleet moved forward, their weapons charging, their shields glowing. They had done this 1,000 times before. They had crushed rebellions and burned worlds. This would be no different. They were wrong. Admiral Hannah watched the enemy fleet approach on her tactical display. She was aboard the carrier Dayon, the largest ship in Earth's fleet, hiding among the tumbling rocks of the asteroid belt. Around her, 42 other ships waited in silence, their engines cold, their weapons ready. "Steady," she said into her communicator. "Let them come deeper into the field. Wait for my signal." The hegemony ships entered the asteroid belt. They had to slow down to navigate around the floating mountains of rock and ice. Their formations spread out, their neat lines becoming scattered and confused. This was what Hannah had been waiting for, she said. Colonel Gian pressed a button. Across the asteroid belt, hidden nuclear charges detonated. Massive rocks, some as big as cities, exploded into clouds of deadly fragments. The debris flew in all directions, slamming into hegemony ships at incredible speeds. The first 3 warships died instantly, torn apart by the flying stones. 5 more lost their shields and began to drift, their engines damaged. The rest scattered in confusion, trying to escape the deadly rain. "All ships, attack," Hannah commanded. The human fleet emerged from their hiding places, firing everything they had. Missiles streaked through the darkness. Lasers cut bright lines across the void. Nuclear warheads bloomed into miniature suns against hegemony shields. On her flagship, Mira watched in shock as her fleet fell into chaos. Ships were crashing into asteroids. Ships were shooting at shadows. Ships were dying. "This is impossible," she whispered. "They are nothing. They are primitives. How are they doing this?" But the answer was all around her. The humans were not fighting like a civilized species. They were fighting like animals. They were using every dirty trick, every desperate tactic, every weapon they had. They were throwing rocks at starships. And it was working. The battle raged for hours. The human fleet took terrible losses. The carrier Hansen was destroyed, along with 15 other ships. Thousands of brave men and women died in the cold darkness of space. But the hegemony lost more. By the time the sun rose over Earth the next morning, 114 hegemony warships had been destroyed or disabled. The asteroid belt was full of burning wreckage and drifting bodies. The survivors of both fleets faced each other across a field of death. Mira stared at the numbers in disbelief. More than half her fleet was gone. She had never lost so many ships in a single battle. She had never lost any ships in a battle. Her communications officer spoke nervously. "Counselor, we are receiving reports from other sectors. There are uprisings on 12 worlds. Former vassal species are refusing to pay tribute. They are demanding independence." Mira's crystal body went dark. She understood now. This was not just a battle for one planet. This was a battle for the entire galaxy. If she lost here, if she retreated, the hegemony would crumble. Every species they had conquered would see that the masters could be beaten. "Continue the attack," she ordered. "Destroy them all." But before her ships could move, something appeared on her sensors. Ships. Hundreds of ships. Emerging from faster-than-light travel all around her fleet, they were not hegemony ships. The communications channel crackled with a new voice. "Attention, hegemony fleet. This is the Free Coalition. We have come to stand with humanity. We advise you to surrender immediately." Mira could not believe what she was seeing. Ships from a dozen different species, all flying together, all pointing their weapons at her fleet. Some of them were old hegemony vessels with new paint. Some of them were designs she had never seen before. All of them were ready to fight. "This is impossible," she said again, but her voice had no strength left. Admiral Hannah's face appeared on her view screen. The human woman was covered in sweat and blood, but she was smiling.
"Aye, Counselor,"
Hannah said. "It seems you have a decision to make. You can continue this battle and lose everything. Or you can accept that the age of the hegemony is over." Mira looked at the tactical display. Her remaining ships were surrounded. Her fleet was broken. Her empire was falling apart across the galaxy. She had one more question. "Why?" she asked. "Why did you refuse? Why did you fight? You could have lived safely as our servants. You could have survived." Hannah's smile faded. For a moment, she looked very tired and very old. "'Cause survival is not enough," she said. "Living on our knees is not living. We would rather die standing than spend eternity bowing to someone else." "You don't understand us, Counselor. You never did. We are not a logical species. We are not a practical species. We are a species that looks at impossible odds and says, 'Let's try anyway.'" She leaned forward. "You asked us to surrender our freedom. We said no. And no matter how many ships you send, no matter how many worlds you burn, we will keep saying no until there is nothing left of us to say it." Mira was silent for a long time. Then slowly, her crystal body began to glow again. "I would like to speak to your Secretary General," she said, "to discuss terms." The war ended that day. Not with humanity's surrender, but with the hegemonies. 3 months later, the new Galactic Assembly held its first meeting. Representatives from every species in the former hegemony gathered together, not as masters and servants, but as equals. The tribute order was abolished. The old laws were thrown away. A new charter was written, based on principles that humanity had fought and died for. Secretary General Wu was too old and too tired to represent Earth himself. He sent Admiral Hannah in his place. When she arrived at the great hall where the assembly would meet, she found representatives from 1,000 different worlds waiting for her. Beings of every shape and size, every color and form. Some of them had helped humanity in the battle. Some of them had watched from far away. All of them knew what humanity had done. "Admiral Hannah," said the new chairman of the assembly, a tall being with silver skin and kind eyes. "You represent the species that changed the galaxy. Is there anything you would like to say?" Hannah thought about all the people who had died, the ships that had burned, the families that would never be whole again. She thought about Secretary General Wu, back on Earth, watching this moment on a screen. She thought about Colonel Jian and Dr. Nari, all the others who had stood beside her, and, when everything seemed hopeless, she thought about the one word that had started it all. "Only this," she said. "We were asked to kneel, and we refused. We were told resistance was impossible, and we fought anyway. We were alone against an empire, and we found friends we never knew we had." She looked around at the assembled beings, at the representatives of 1,000 free worlds. Remember this? Remember that tyranny only survives as long as people are afraid. Remember that one voice saying no can shake the foundations of the galaxy. Remember that freedom is never given. It must always be taken. She smiled, and this time there was warmth in it. "We are humanity. We do not kneel. And now neither do you." The hall erupted into applause. Beings who had never agreed on anything cheered together. Species that had been enemies for millennia embraced each other. Far away, on a small blue planet orbiting an ordinary yellow star, an old man watched the celebration on his screen. Secretary General Wu leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes. They had done it. Against all odds, against all reason, they had done it. He remembered the day the aliens first arrived. He remembered the fear in everyone's eyes. He remembered the moment he had decided what humanity's answer would be. One word. Just 2 letters. The smallest possible response to the largest possible demand. But it had been enough. It had always been enough. He opened his eyes and looked out the window at the stars. He whispered to himself, smiling, and somewhere out there, among the infinite lights of the galaxy, a new age was beginning. An age of freedom, an age that humanity had made possible simply by refusing to kneel.